Lizzie Mack and Murray Cook are the soul movers, and welcome to noise11.com.
Thanks, Paul. Good to be here.
Absolutely.
I've been really enjoying the music that's been coming out. Well, it's over the last couple of years now. And with you, Lizzie, it goes back even further than that. Take us back to the origins of soul movers around the 2008-2009 album. When the first album came out, it was a very different sounding soul movers at that point.
It was actually recorded down in Melbourne too, Paul, at down the end of St Kilda, down Ackland Street with Craig Harnath at Hot House. Yeah. So Deniz, Tech and Pip Hoyle, sounds like Radio Birdman, but it's not, and myself and Craig and Brett Wolfenden, who does a lot of work around town with Davey Lane.
Wolfie.
Wolfie, the legendary Wolfie. Oh man, the drums he did on that ruined me for life. So that was called On the Inside, and I think it came out in 2007, and we toured it through Europe and stuff till about 2009. And then I was living between Melbourne and the US and doing way too much travel, trying to keep up with Deniz Tech. And I came back home for a while, so we just cooled it with Soul Movers. And wasn't too long after that, really, that Murray was looking at retiring from the Wiggles and restarting his original love, which is live music, playing live music, as he did, in bands in high school. And I got a little message one day. Hi, it's Murray here from the Wiggles, in brackets, ... Don't hold it against me. I'm looking for a band to get back into, and I've heard your album, and would you like to get together for a jam? And I said, well, funny you mention it. I've got a band we usually rehearse with. His guitarist gone away for 3 months. Can you come on Saturday? So he brought his beautiful guitars and off we went. We really haven't looked back since then, have we, Murray?
No, well, then we kind of decided that we'd do it as the Soul Movers, play some of the songs from the first album and write some new songs. And so this is the album that's going to come out in April is our third one together. We've had some really great adventures along the way. So the first one we did when we first got together was called Testify, and we recorded that at the Wiggles studio.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of feeling our way a bit. And then the next one we went to the south of the US, so Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and Memphis, Tennessee, and recorded it in some pretty amazing studios there. That was a very exciting time. That was a couple of years ago now.
Bonafide.
It's called Bonafide. Yeah. And we played with some of the Swampers, who, if people have seen the Muscle Shoals documentary, they'll be aware of the Swampers. So we played with David Hood and Spooner Oldham, who's very well known. They played on Aretha Franklin records and Wilson Pickett and all these great soul records from the 60s. And then later into the 70s, when they set up their own studio, they played with
Bob Seger
and Rod Stewart and the Stones recorded Wild Horses and Brown Sugar at the studio there. So, it was pretty amazing. And you'd walk into these studios and kind of freak out a little bit at first. But, once you got down to work, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was great.
So you joined 2015 then, Murray. I guess that makes you the Ron Wood of the Soul Movers.
Yeah, that's right. I'm the new guy.
It was actually, I think it was early in 2013. But then I went off to Mexico and did a bit of teaching for a year. So we sort of started playing towards the end of 2013, very locally. And then obviously we've just survived COVID by hunkering down at Rankin Street with Garth Porter and Tony Mitchell from Sherbet. So that's our latest sort of foray. And I got to say, driving 15 minutes to Botany from Coogee in Newtown, because it's basically halfway between the two suburbs, is a lot easier than going halfway across America. And we did go there a lot. I think we started in early April. We started writing. And obviously we just finished mastering a few weeks ago and had our first launch on Saturday for Splinter. So
yeah, wow. So it started off with Radio Birdman and gets to Sherbet at the other end. How's that for bookends?
it's
Via the Wiggles. I don't know how many people have done that.
It's pretty weird, yeah. But
I'm going to be quite proud of that,
Yeah.
Well, it's funny too, for me, it's a full circle, because Sherbet were the first band I ever saw when I was 11 years old. And and so to now work with Garth producing and Tony playing bass on the album is pretty exciting. And it's kind of interesting for us too, because we've always produced our own stuff. We've never had an outside producer, and it's quite a different experience.
Yeah.
And
Trust.
you do have to sort of let go a little bit and just trust in the other person. And Garth's pretty collaborative, but he also knows his mind, and he's got really set ideas in a lot of ways. I don't mean that in a bad way, but he knows what works, and he didn't have to twist our arms too much. But it's a different sounding record, and one we're happy with.
Yeah, I think you also, Murray and I agreed a few times that you have to be at that stage of evolution where you want to give someone else a crack, because we'd done Testify by ourselves, and we worked with people in the States, and obviously we had a lot of incredible talent and skill on it. But in terms of production, we'd always kind of done it ourselves, and we were like, nah, this is a whole different ball game. And once we started working, especially with Brent Clark, who, has done a lot of work with Midnight Oil and a whole bunch of incredible artists, we went, right, we knew nothing. We officially knew nothing, and thank God we got the professionals in, especially on this album, because it's more of a studio record. Yeah.
When I listened to the last album, and as you said, Murray, that real Memphis sound that was on that, and I compare that to what I've just heard with Splinter, which is the new song, you've kind of jumped the pond, haven't you? You've got over to sort of a British soul sound as compared to the Memphis soul sound that was on the first record.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when the album's out, you'll hear that
pretty diverse.
It's really diverse. So there's a little bit of what we've done in the past, but yeah, I mean, we've got lots of different influences, as most musicians do, and we try not to be tied too much to just the soul thing, even though it's in our name. But it is that kind of more Dusty Springfield, big production sound.
But you wait, Paul. You wait, because seriously, I shouldn't do this, but you want to take a blast to the past? Where's the microphone? I mean, that's a rough, and there's a lot of sherbet going on in some of those tracks,
a lot
mate.
of sherbet, yeah. Bit of summer love.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Because England is interesting, isn't it, from a soul perspective? England, as you said, Dusty Springfield, there was Amy Winehouse, even Duffy, who came along about 10 years ago. Do you listen to parts of the English soul or all of the English soul? Does that entire spectrum influence soul movers, or just the Dusty part at the beginning?
Well, it kind of, for me, it goes back to the kind of R&B of the 60s, the white R&B, like the Small Faces and people like that. It's always been such a strong influence in English pop music. And I guess, I'm a child of the 60s, so I grew up with a lot of that kind of stuff. And I think the UK has always been much more open to soul music than, say, Australia has. I think because they do have a bigger black population and they're a lot closer to America. So, I think it all comes through. And,
it's funny because that's not really a deliberate choice for me, Paul. I think because I started being totally transported by music at such a young age, and I listened to Dusty. I would play I Only Want to Be With You, up to 50 times a day at the age of 5, 6, 7. I just listened to music all the time. I think because we were quite isolated and we had a good record collection, and with 3 sisters, we just wanted to dance a lot. So, I think with those songs, I love Amy and she's got an incredible sound, especially in Is It Back to Black? Yeah. But you can't take Aretha, or you can't take Dusty, or you can't take The Seekers, or, those early sounds that are just so in my head, mind, heart, ears. That's always going to be the way that music comes out of me, I think, because my DNA is wrapped, that's around it. So, yeah.
Because we were very late to the party in Australia with soul and R&B music, weren't we? When you think about the 60s, and all of those Motown hits, all of those Atlantic hits, all of those Stax hits, we only ever got the tip of the iceberg that charted in Australia. It wasn't, I guess, until The Big Chill came along and then later the Commitments movies that Australians, from a pop perspective, started to get into R&B, soul music, and start pushing it into the chart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. I remember in I think fairly early 80s, Atlantic Records put out there was, I think, 7 double albums of each, like, from the beginning of Atlantic Records, sort of R&B from the 40s and, through the different decades. And I remember I bought them, and it was like a treasure trove.
Yeah.
It was like a whole world opened up that I kind of knew existed, but I didn't really know it in the sort of, in the way that I discovered it later. And I think you're right. I think the Big Chill and the Commitments played a big part in that, getting that music out there that people in America just grew up with.
Yeah. But I think that it was really a return, especially for people like us that had heard it in growing up, but then got to experience it as adults and love it and enjoy it as adults, instead of it just being there all the time. Because, even if it wasn't played on the radio, we had the vinyl, and that was going pretty much constant radio show on at our house. So, yeah.
It was a crazy time in the 70s too, because radio played kind of anything really. You'd have things like Made in Japan by Buck Owens. It was a hit, and Rose Garden. So there's country music, and side by side with the rock stuff, the glam stuff, and then there would be the occasional like reggae thing, or So I think the diversity was there, but I think probably soul music in general wasn't that represented.
No.
The good old days of radio, going from Tie a Yellow Ribbon Round the Old Oak Tree into Black Night.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny because we were talking about Young Hearts Run Free the other day, and Candy is just such an incredible soul voice in that early stuff. She did Chitlin Circuit for 20 years, and I recorded in her vocal booth when we were at Fame too. But it wasn't until she did Young Hearts and put the disco in it that everyone got to hear that incredible soul voice, Yeah,
in Australia, people really only know her for Young Hearts Run Free, but she did all these amazing soul records in the late 60s, early 70s.
I'm always doing that on stage, and I'm like, Candy's starting this, and everyone's just looking at me with blank faces, and I go, Young Hearts Run Free, like this. They go, woo, and they know everything. I'm like, okay, we're on the same page. Just a few years later.
Yeah. Tell me about the song Circle Baby. Now, this is kind of where the Wiggles meet the Soul Movers, and Greg Page was involved with that.
Yeah, well, I guess that was Lizzie's idea, really. I mean, we had the song, and there's a pretty interesting crossover. A lot of the original Wiggles fans now are in their 20s, and we do get quite a few of them come along to see us play live. We had a great couple of nights at the Cherry Bar in Melbourne a few years ago, where it was nearly all 20-somethings there, and they just went nuts. And they kind of come along to see what I'm up to, but then they get hooked in by the music. And we were out in the lane. It was still when it was in AC/DC lane, and we went out in the lane, and there were all these people out there, and they cheered when we came out after the gig. And I go,
how did the crowd get out here?
It was like, that was the best show we've seen for ages. And so we kind of realised that there was a young audience there that we hadn't really tapped into, and then also the Soul Movers had supported the Wiggles, so I did double duty. The original Wiggles on a show that we did for adults earlier in the year. Quite famously, Greg suffered a heart attack and didn't finish the next night. But so we were kind of, it was in our mind, and I think part of it was COVID was hit. There was the lockdown. We wanted to do something that was uplifting. A video where people could do a workout at home, maybe, and also
colour, energy, disco. I reckon, there was the craziest idea in the back of my head. What can kill COVID? Disco. Disco's relentless. We just need to fire like what is it? Ghostbusters disco gun at this mofo, and we'll take it out. But it's funny because Circle's Baby was written in Brunswick. We actually flew down to do Meat Stock, which was like 45,000. Sold out. What happened to the brisket, in brackets? And we got down there, and we got on the plane. It was cancelled on the plane. They were giving us parking passes in the morning. We got on the plane, clicked in, we cancelled. So that was the day the music died. What was it? March 23rd or 24th. Anyway, so we went, okay, I'll call Bakehouse. We're working on the album at that stage, starting to. So we booked 2 days at Bakehouse in the Floyd room and went in and we had one little bass hook and we wrote Circle's Baby in the Floyd room at Bakehouse in Fitzroy. And we just realised it was such a good groovy driving beat that could go forever. And I just went, oh, wow, we could actually dance to this. And I'm a bit of a fan of the positive psychology of Richard Simmons. And I thought, who could be our Richard?
Yes.
The man in yellow. So, and I also, having been there for Greg's terrible accident, which I prefer to call it, I just knew there was so much, even on socials, is Greg okay? Is Greg okay? Because people would ask us, like you'd ask sort of, distant friends. And I go, yeah, he's good. And then I went, people need to know, and I knew by that stage he was doing work with Heart of the Nation, the defib company that he was working for. And I said, do you want to come out and show people you're great again? And we knew he'd been back at the gym and he was walking like 2 or 3 Ks a day. And he went, yeah, I think it's time. So it was really the perfect vehicle to make everyone feel better at a time when we were all feeling really stressed and really scared and alone. You guys have just come out of 3 months of that. So, hats off to you. If you found that Circle Babies workout during those 3 months, that might have helped, even if I don't think anyone did the workout, but we all loved watching people do it for us, especially Holly in those blue tights. But I just think it was a real deep effort of just what can we do to feel like ourselves and put some positive out there. And yeah, I think it worked. People seem to like it.
And now we've gone from the colour to the darkness.
Yeah, couldn't have gone. No colour. We are in the midnight of our album. We went out with the dark.
What, big red car's not your roadie vehicle?
No.
We were in what are those old things that the Munsters drive? Those black cars that funerals.
Oh, the hearse.
Yeah, we're in a hearse now. We're in a retro Batman hearse. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, that Murray, you've popped out one end of the Wiggles into Soul Movers, but the origins of the Wiggles actually came out of a rock and roll band as well, the Cockroaches.
Yeah. Nice connection, Paul.
That's well, of course, Anthony and Jeff were in the Cockroaches, who were a big band in the 80s, had some hits, and they used to tour all the time. And strangely, Anthony gave that up because he was sick of touring, but the Wiggles toured more than anyone in the history of the world almost. But people often say to me, I remember you from when you were in the Cockroaches, and I used to quite often go, oh, actually, I wasn't one of the Cockroaches, but now quite often I'll just go, oh yeah, we had some great nights, Sweethearts at Cabramatta or wherever they saw us. But I played in bands in the 80s too, but not with the same level of success, unfortunately. But I learned a lot, and I'm putting that into practice. Well, I have my whole career really.
Yeah, we're just getting the hang of it now, Paul. Really.
Yeah.
So it's really good that people will still let us hop up on stage and have a crack at it. And it's funny because we're always talking about the fact that people of our generation love to listen to new music. We don't just want to listen to the Rolling Stones and, ABBA or whatever your personal choice is. But I do think that the people that are making it, that are our age with our musical DNA, make songs that feel like they come from that same sort of conversation of the music that we like. So it's really great when we get those texts and messages and things coming through the socials. It's just saying, I love you guys, I love your music, keep doing what you're doing. Us people need music we want to listen to, we hear, we dig, we like,
A few years ago, Grady Smith, we saw Grady at a gig and before he unfortunately passed away, and he said, I love what you guys do. It's like you're a young band, but you're not young.
It's like you haven't checked yourselves.
And I think one of the great things about Facebook and socials in general is some of the connections you make. Because some of the people I'm friends with seem like maybe odd bedfellows sometimes. Because I got a message I got a message from Phil Calvert the other day, who was in the birthday party, and he's saying, I just really love seeing people just playing.
Our age.
Well, no, he was just saying, I love seeing people who are still playing music just because they love it and they kind of have to. And he said that he found that quite inspiring to get behind the drums at home. And so you know, it's something that we'll do forever, and we just love doing it.
Yeah.
Because you've done the Madison Square Garden stage, haven't you, Murray?
I have, and I've played what used to be the Hammersmith Odeon, now the Hammersmith Apollo. So yeah, I've played some pretty amazing shows in my time, and I saw something the other day about the Ryman in Nashville, and there was something about, what was the best show you saw at the Ryman? And I said, I've never actually seen the show there, but I've played there a few times. And people go, oh, wow. So for people who don't know, that's like where the Grand Ole Opry used to be in Nashville. And it's like, they call it the church of country music.
Yeah. When the Soul Movers were recording in the States, did you actually do any shows while you were there?
Yeah, we did a few. We actually had to cancel a couple because we needed the days for recording, because recording is such an unpredictable thing. But there's a really great place we played at in LA that we loved. We played in New York, and we had a really good night, and the locals are a bit fussy. And it was funny because a week later when we'd left New York, we got a message on Insta or socials and an email saying, hey guys, we'd really like to have you back again this weekend, is there any chance you can? Like, well, we'd love to, but the band's back in Sydney and Lizzie's back down in Alabama starting to mix the album. But I would love to be able to play there more, but that's one of those things that you just hope that country's stages will be saved at the end of this. And I guess it's a case of, the bomb's gone off, but we haven't checked the wreckage yet. That'll happen over the next year. Not to be too much of a downer, but, we hope that we will get a chance, like even just coming down and playing Melbourne again. We get texts from friends going, when are you coming down to Cherry Bar? Or when are you, coming back down to the SB or whatever? And we're like, we will be there with bells on. The minute we get a green light, we are in the van, we are down the highway. So, because we miss our fans so much. I think that was the biggest shock when COVID went off for me and Murray. We're like, but, this is what we do. We connect with people. We love people. We absolutely look forward to seeing all our fans, and playing live music is the mirror that reflects back to us who we are as people. And it's just the biggest part of our job is making people happy and dance, and taking those things away from us is like, come on, we've got to wake out of this crazy footloose kind of nightmare that we're all in, and work and try really hard to get our souls back, and that a lot of that comes from live music. So I'm glad people have really missed it, because it's such an important part of who we are as civilized human beings, I think.
Well, here we are on Double Donut Day. Hopefully we will see some live music again soon, and it will be you guys out there playing the Melbourne bars again. You should look, you can put a few of yours up.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's so cool. I like this one. I picked that one up the other day.
Oh, there you go. G'day, mate.
He's got a gas mask on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Excellent stuff. Lizzie, Murray,
mate.
Thanks for giving us the Soul Movers story. G'day, mates.
Thanks, Paul. Lovely talking to you, and all the best let's stick with it.
Yeah. Triple donuts.